Welcome to Book World: The Great Escape. I'm author CJ Peterson. My co-host over here is author Michael Scott Clifton. Today we have a special guest down here. It is author Haley Kilgour, or H.C. Kilgour. We'll be talking to her in just a minute. Before we get there, Mike, how was your week?
Oh, well, it was
It's
an
been an exciting
interesting
one.
one. We had a bad storm come through on Friday, and it knocked out all the electricity, trees down everywhere. My wife Melanie actually had that weekend. She was off for Cousins weekend in Tyler, which is south of here, and so I was by myself, and I'm glad because storms, especially of that intensity, scare her. So anyway, I've lived here a long, long time. I've never seen wind and rain like that before in my life. If you can imagine, um, looking out the window and the rain, instead of falling vertically, is going horizontally. And I don't know that I've seen wind like that before, but I've never seen sustained winds. And anyway, trees down everywhere. Uh, I don't know if there's a tornado. I haven't heard any official reports of it, but straight line winds for sure. Worst storm that we've had where we've lived probably since we've lived here. And anyways, everybody's without power, pretty widespread. And feel fortunate that none of the trees fell on our house. Although we had a little bitty limb, no bigger than an inch in diameter, if that big, that fell straight down like a javelin and punched a hole in the roof. And so in it, you can't make this stuff up. It landed in whatever spot to go directly into my wife's bathroom, and she's got a beautiful light fixture that's bowl shaped. And I heard this trip. I heard this noise. I go in there, and of course the electricity. So I got a flashlight. I look up there, and if you can imagine a goldfish bowl with half full of water, that's what it resembled.
Shame.
And anyway, so I did have a friend the next day. Finally, when the rain and stuff, I had a friend that's pretty handy. We've patched the hole and talked to an electrician, and just let it dry out. You should be able to use the light again. But we're probably going to have to do some repairs there. But the NetWool Conference, Northeast Texas Writers Organization, their annual spring conference was the next day on Saturday. So this is last Friday, and the conference is supposed to be on Saturday. Well, there's no electricity at the college. There's no electricity anywhere. So the conference was canceled. I believe we're going to try to reschedule it, CJ, sometime in June, but I'm not sure which Saturday it will be on yet. But I believe we're going to try to reschedule it in June. But anyway, so it was a hair-raising experience, and I didn't have a shelter like yours to get in, but I was hunched in the closet.
I'll bet. Yeah, no, this last weekend. For those who are watching, we are not ignoring you. We are pre-recording, due to scheduling conflicts of our special guest down here below. So we are not ignoring you. She's like, yeah, it's me. It's my fault. It's all good. We're not ignoring you. Yeah, this weekend there were over 100 recorded tornadoes. So this lovely dry line went across 6 states. Former catastrophe adjuster that I am, followed a lot of that stuff, so I already knew it was coming our way. We are living in OKC. That is something I pay heavy attention to, especially living where we're living, because we are now full target. One of the requirements when we moved here, I said we needed a tornado shelter in the home. And so we had this little tiny shelter that's in our garage underneath our car. And so we had 6 foot for hubby. I'm 5'11". Our daughter's in there. She has a 63-pound golden retriever. We have like a 53-pound Carolina Hound. And then I call our 23-pound Maine Coon mix. We call him Murder Mittens. I'm literally the one that can hold him, all crammed into this little tiny shelter. Yeah, it was an experience. It was fun. The tornado went between us and the Air Force Base, but we were fine. No damage. It was okay. We were good. We were fortunate. Sulphur, Oklahoma got nailed with an Ep15.
Dang.
So there's a lot of damage that's around. Not many people were as fortunate. There were, I believe, 4 deaths in Oklahoma that I'm aware of.
Mm.
5 deaths total as of this morning that I'm aware of. So there were a lot of people, a lot of damage, a lot that were not quite as fortunate. So a lot of people are in our prayers with those tornadoes that did run throughout. And there are still more. That dry line is going slowly across. So when the conditions are right, it is very dangerous and you need to pay attention. So for those of us who do pay attention to that weather, please warn those who are not quite as weather literate. I know, Mike, I gave you kind of the heads up on some of the stuff that was heading your way the other day. I'm like, pay attention, please. Um, we do not take that lightly. This weekend coming up is the East Texas Comic Con in Longview, Texas. I'm super excited. It is, of course, a favorite day for sci-fi geeks all around. It is May 4th, as in May the 4th be with you, followed by Revenge of the 5th. Yes, May 5th, also known as Cinco de Mayo.
Or if you're in Florida, Cinco de Drinko.
There you go. Fun stuff. This weekend, we're going to have at the East Texas, let me pull that up. I'll get you the guest list in just a quick second. It is going to include the following guests: Carrie Means, Kevin Sorbo, Paul St. Peter, Lizzie Freeman, Amanda Hufford, Greg Peters. So lots of fun guests are going to be there. I will be running the floor, so I'll be running around. One of our vendors is over here. Author Michael Scott Clifton will be there. One of my partners in crime from Magic Making Mischief, Monbirella, will be running around on Saturday. She and I will be doing a Magic Making Mischief meetup with your favorite Hogwarts house with pride. I will be wearing my Ravenclaw. She'll be wearing her Slytherin. There's also Hufflepuffs and Gryffindors. Make sure to wear yours during the day and get some pictures taken with us, and we'll see what we can do. Have lots of fun. But you got to catch me because I am generally a streak running around, making sure the floor is spinning as it's supposed to be. But I will definitely be there. I will be the blue streak running around though on that day because of my Ravenclaw. But time to talk to our wonderful guest, Miss H.C. Kilgour. We had her partner, David, in here a couple weeks ago, who is part of the Owl Talyn Press. So Haley, welcome.
Thank you.
So first of all, let's tackle the Owl Talyn Press. You're part of the story. Can you tell us how it was formed?
So David and I met while we were at Rock Hill Publishing, who is run by James Hill.
Mhm.
He is a great guy, but there came a point where David and I just looked at each other and said, we think we're ready for the next step. No shade to James or anything. There's a couple of things we would like to do differently. We would like to have more of a true active role in the editing of our book, in the advertising. And so for us, it just made sense to say, all right, we are going to leave Rock Hill, all love attached, and start our own company. And I happened to make a friend through Instagram who had a publisher, and she was kind of looking to pull some people in. So we thought maybe we'll start here instead. Things didn't work out. We are still good friends with her. And then, David said, you know what? I'm making this. We're doing Owl Talyn. And I said, you know what? This was our original plan. I'm still here for it. Let's go. So that's kind of how we started. David has been a lot more of the back end of stuff, setting up the website, dealing with Amazon and Ingram. I am so
fun part. Yeah.
when it comes to Ingram. He's very good at doing the formatting for the books. I've been more of, that frontline editor. He catches a lot of things grammatic wise, whereas my ADHD very much so focuses in on, hold on, that didn't make sense. You like 4 pages ago. So I'm good for that developmental editing, those really small things. And I'm a bit more involved with social media as far as Instagram goes. So that's kind of where I've been. And, we've kind of played off each other's strengths and weaknesses. And
so he does more like the back end in the business, and you're like the social media and the content, and he's the copy.
Yeah. And I'm not perfect at, content stuff either, but I'm a little bit more involved that I've got just Instagram's kind of been where I've been happy for book stuff. So I've got the contacts there to kind of spread the word, and that's been really helpful. So that's just, I have those connections, it made more sense for me to kind of step into that role. And we're both happy, I think, where we are. And of course, he does some of the content stuff where I'm just like, David, help, do the thing. I can't. And he's just like, I got you. You're all good. So, it works. And, I can certainly do Ingram too. And just, I hate it. Ingram's so difficult. It's so
They're
unnecessarily
so
difficult.
picky. They are. It's painful sometimes.
Yeah,
I feel you on that. I
we
do.
spent the first 3 months of this year trying to deal with the gutter on my book because someone finally looked at it and said, oh, yeah, this is really hard to like read because like the words are like all the way down in the crack. And so we changed the margin first time around. Nothing. All right. Did it again. Nothing. Third time's a charm. Oh, look, it's perfect. And then Ingram, he said, as soon as that order was done, you have to change the spine. It's too big now. And we're just like, what? And then so we went back to the one before the one that was good. And then we were like, oh wait, this was a good one. We don't actually have to change the thing. It was a whole process. And it was just like between me trying to get married and go into Renaissance Fair season, it was just like,
it's a steep learning curve. It really is.
That it is. But now that we know that, the thicker books, they need a bit more of a gutter margin. Really good to know. It's going to save us a lot of time going forward.
Well, but once you learn your lessons, it's like if you make your mistakes in the beginning, you learn your lessons. And sometimes you learn them the hard way. Like there's this one book that I did, and it was actually making the cover that I made my mistakes. And it took me like 4 times of sending in covers and ordering books to realize where my error was.
Yeah. Yeah. So sometimes it's a right pain, but at least once you've got the lessons down, it's great. And David,
You don't forget them.
Not, which is why I'm just like, David has learned the lessons. David has done the research to know how to make Ingram Sparks do what he wants. And I'm just like, I don't want to try and take all of your knowledge and put it into my brain through trial and error because I'm just as likely to be like, I'm walking away and I'm not coming back. So I'm just like, please, David, you do that.
You have at it. I'm done.
So the formatting, I guess, is there was a learning curve, so to speak. Yeah.
For him, yes, but he found some really good forums and he had people that he was able to get some help from and walk him through it. So it wasn't too bad because, he had those connections, which they were invaluable. But just for me trying to do it was like, no. I think the one thing I brought to the table is I figured out how to do drop caps. That's the one thing I figured out. And was like, I know how to do this. So.
Yeah, I actually use Vellum.
Use
and
the
it
what?
does the Vellum, and it actually
Vellum?
does the formatting for me.
Yeah, we have one of our newer authors that we brought in. She uses Vellum, and just for me, I'm like, I have Word. I don't want to pay for another program. I will figure out Words. There's ways to do it, and after some playing, the first time around, it's like, okay, cool. And then I went to finish the formatting on the second book, and I was like, wait, what did I do? So I wrote it down the second time. So I've got all my measurements and how to do things. So now I've just got to go look at the notes, and it's easy peasy.
There you go. Okay, so you've got that going. So how many authors do you guys have so far?
So far, it's just David and I. We have signed 2 other authors. One is Sarah R. Cleveland. With her first series, she is going to be republishing with us. It's Baird Magic, and it's a Goldilocks and the Three Bears retelling.
Mm-hmm.
The other author is Dan R. Arman, who has unfortunately passed. His wife is going to be republishing his books with us. We took on his first anthology. We've got the edits to her, and so we're just making some changes, and we're hoping to have those put out, and then his original series put out, and then his wife's going to finish out the second anthology of short stories. So we're really excited for it. It's a really fun world, and I'm sad that we never really got to work with Dan himself, but we're excited that we get to keep his legacy and his books going.
That's really cool.
Is there
Very cool.
do y'all do certain genres, or are you open to any kind of genre?
So for right now, we just have fantasy. We actually have submissions open through May 31st, where we're looking for historical fiction, fantasy, sci-fi, paranormal, romance kind of thing. We didn't say paranormal exactly, but paranormal can fit really into that romance genre or really well into that fantasy. So we did broad categories, and we're open to submissions for all ages. If you want to do a picture book, that's fine. Middle grade, chapter book, young adult, new adult, full adult. You want to go that steamy, smutty romance, we're there for it. And we can easily be persuaded to do, if you've got a memoir and it's a real cool memoir, we'll try it. We're really open to a lot of different things. Fiction's kind of where we want to stay for now, but again, you pitch us the right idea, and we're happy to run with it.
So, are your submission guidelines on your website?
They are on our website. We are also having an open submission for artists right now. So anyone who does character art, bookmarks, that kind of stuff. We do have an artist, but he does do more of that horror fantasy kind of stuff. So for certain projects, he might not be the right fit. But we've also got a lot of work for him right now. So he's starting to get overwhelmed. So we're trying to kind of be proactive and say, okay, let's not drown you in work.
Okay, so for anybody who's interested in submissions, you can go to www.owltalynpress.com. For those who are listening, that's www.owl. I'm waiting for it to scroll across. It's www.owltalynpress.com.
Yes.
owltalynpress.com. So make
Yeah.
sure to get those submissions in.
So the submissions spell out, I'm trying to think in the terms of, say, someone that's new, that wants their first time publishing, never had a book published before. So the submission guidelines that y'all have, are they sufficiently, would you say, I don't want to say simple, don't want to insult anybody. Are they specifically clear enough that someone who has never, ever had a book published before can go and look at Owl Talyn Press, and understand what it is the requirements are in terms of what they need to give to y'all as the publisher?
Yes. So all we're asking for is a query letter, which I know that's the bane of a lot of authors' existence. We went through it too, believe us. We're not looking for anything pretty, just, simple query letter. The first 3 chapters and the last chapter in a single PDF. Very simple, very straightforward. We just want a basic overview. Okay, what's the story? How's it starting? Is it catching our interest? And then we kind of want to see that last frame of how is it ending? What's our end thing? And so that's just, fairly standard, but it will give us a very good idea of whether the book is right for us.
Can you give a quick down and dirty on what a query letter should contain, and what is a query letter and what should it contain?
So a query letter is generally what you will submit to an agent or a publisher when you're trying to get them to pick up your book. Most query letters will have a quick introduction about the author. So for me, I would talk about, the genres I like to write, kind of things I've dabbled in, what my first book is, a quick synopsis of it, where its word count is, and what genre it's in. And then if you've got, any other books that are published, where they've been published, how they have been doing, or if you've got any good social media accounts, because that is very important for publishers to know in regards to marketing a book. So if you're a book reviewer and you've got 100,000 followers, that's a really important thing to know, because that means anytime we put publishing out, you're going to do that too, and it's going to go to a ton of people. It's not the end all be all, but it is important to know, because advertising is honestly more important than the writing of the book, because if you don't advertise correctly, that book's never really going to go anywhere.
Right.
So
definitely. So now we talk about Owl Talyn Press a little bit. Let's talk about you as an author. You have one book out already, and I'm terrible at pronouncing it. So can you tell us the name and what it's about? I know it's a thick one.
So sure. So the book is called Noggin. This big girl right here, you can tell she's nice and thick.
She is.
So the basic premise is what happens when you take someone from our world, throw them into one filled with magic, and say, good luck, don't die. And that's a very, very brief kind of thing. There's a lot of POVs to it. The main one is Keegan, Aaron, Cade, and Jared, who... I'm not going to do some spoilers because, again, that's part of reading the book. But I do love to compare it to as if Aragorn, Avatar: The Last Airbender, and Game of Thrones had a love child. So if you can mashing those all together, yeah, that's pretty much my book. Aragorn is literally what inspired me to write both the story and the fact that Christopher Paolini was so young. So if you know Aragorn really well, you'll catch
I literally have it in my living room right now.
Yep.
But
so
first book was the best one.
Yeah, that was the one that caught all of our hearts for sure.
Yep.
Now you that one came out when?
Nanagan launched May of 2020, so peak COVID quarantine. So that's why as an author, my journey has been so weird because it was like COVID. How do I advertise a book when I can't go to shows? I can't really go to bookshops. So that's really for me why I built such an Instagram presence. And it's weird. I don't actually post about my book super often. But it's as a book reviewer, I've made great connections with other indie authors. And so I've got that support network. And I enjoy the photography aspect of it. I really do enjoy the photography. Wildlife photography is great and all, but it's a lot of luck. Whereas with book photography, I actually have to use my brain and, words are hard. Plan. So it creates just a different element of creativity and puzzle-like stuff for me. So that's fun.
So that was in 2020, and we're now in 2024. So we're 4 years later. And I realized that Little Sis there was a big book. So is there a second one, and is she just as big?
There is a second book. She is just as big. We're actually hoping to have that out later this year. She is currently with the proofreader. There is a few tweaks we got to do to the cover, and then we'll be good to do a title reveal and a cover reveal. And if I don't have it out by the end of this year, I'm going to cry because this should have been done like 2 years ago. It just so
To be fair, though, now you can launch it under your own banner.
Exactly, which we're really excited about that and the fact that we get to do that.
So is Nanagan going to be moved over, or has it already been moved over?
Is moved over. We have had the rights to both of our books since like 2022. So yeah, 2022.
So that came out in 2020, and you moved her over in 2022, and now this one's going to be 2024.
That was the whole, we had another publisher that we were trying to work with. So David's actually got relaunched with that publisher. And then things went haywire. She was happy to give us the rights back to our book. So mine never got relaunched with them. Mine actually relaunched October of last year with Owl Talyn. So it's a very convoluted hot mess. It's crazy.
That's okay. So let's rephrase that again. So that was 2020, and now that it was relaunched in 2023. So this one's technically it's still a baby then. So it's 2023 and then 2024.
Yeah, it really is a baby too, because between the first book with Rock Hill and what we have published now, there were a lot of edits done. We actually took out close to 30,000 words.
Hey, wow.
Maybe I need to re-get the new one then.
And there were some characters.
I have the original.
Yeah, and there were some characterization things that got changed that actually were pretty substantial. So it, the whole craziness, it did actually give me the unique opportunity to say, I published the book, I got feedback from readers, and now I can go and fix those and relaunch it. So it created a really unique opportunity. I don't ever want to do that again, but it was a unique opportunity, and I'd like to think I took the best of the situation and made it work.
Okay, so are you a planner or are you a pantser? Because we know that David is not just a pantser. He's like a pantser to the nth degree. What are you?
So with the first book, there was no plan. These were my bedtime stories. So I had kind of figured everything out, in 10 years. And I thought I knew where things were going. And then because my mother loves to say, well, I don't like how that ended. You should do it differently. And I have to come up with a different ending. It completely changed it. So for the second book, it was a mix. I kind of knew where things were going to end. And I kind of knew some of the things that needed to be in the middle. But I still had to plan a little bit. And then I got to the end. And of course, my mother looked at me again and says, I don't like that ending. Fix it. So what I had planned for the third book now went straight out the window. And so for this third book, I have had to become a decent plotter. It's not like extreme, but like I have a list of things in order that need to happen. And so now before I start writing chapters, I like bulk say, okay, here's my POVs I'm going to do. And here's what's roughly going to happen in each until I get my monkey wrench characters to say, I'm going to take your plan and light it on fire. Have fun. And then you have to refigure things out. I know exactly how this book is going to end to a degree, except what used to be a definitive is now a I have 4 possible outcomes. I don't know which one's happening. We'll see. We'll see what happens. So it's a mix of both.
Well, one of the main reasons I ask is that's one question I normally ask, but because my very first book was considerably smaller than Big Sis there, I rewrote it later, and I am like a pantser, and it took me literally years to do, and to rewrite it was like the bane of my existence. I could not imagine rewriting one as Big Sis
No.
was there.
No.
So I don't know how you did it.
So
No.
the great thing is that it wasn't rewriting; it was cutting and restructuring. So the plot itself didn't change. It was certain characterization things. It was toning up certain character elements, toning down certain character elements, slightly adjusting certain interactions, so much that they weren't a rewrite, more as they were made subtler to allow for different things later on that were going to happen anyway. Like, it didn't change anything, it just changed how the reader now feels about those characters.
Sounds like a pantser to me.
Oh,
Me too.
I'm definitely a pantser. There's no doubt about it. It's the same
Sounds
way
like
I
a pantser
travel.
to me.
I have flights there, and I have my first night stay, and good luck to everything else. I'll figure it out as I go. But I just literally planned an entire trip to Iceland for June, and I didn't have a choice of whether or not I was going to just pants it. I had to plot it because it's Iceland.
Oh yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
Yeah,
how it
if
works.
you're in the way north, you're not just going to find a hotel that night. You have to know where you're staying. So, kind of was forced to be a plotter, which is, in certain aspects, the more I write, the more that's kind of happened, but also the more it's been like, I know where I'm going. I know what big things I need to hit. What happens in between those can be fudged and, let the characters write themselves.
Yeah, that, like I said, sounds like a pantser to me.
For real. Well, we've got a few minutes left. For anybody do you have any advice for anybody who's interested in writing fantasy?
I'm sorry. My brain shut off for a second. What was the question?
Do you have any advice for somebody who's interested in writing fantasy? We have a few minutes left.
If you're ADHD, use it to your advantage. As you just saw, my brain just shut off, but that's also really good because it allows you to create worlds instantaneously. So use that to your advantage. If you're writing fantasy, it's really easy to want to emulate Tolkien, Pellini, create all of these crazy languages and things like that, and you don't have to. You can do an urban fantasy where set in our world. You don't have to create the world or anything. But if you are going to create those worlds and languages, know your world's rules, know how to break them, but also know how to follow them. And the other thing for languages, if you are not a language person like me, that's fine. Literally, if I can't figure out what I want to make a word, I will go into Google Translate and be like, okay, this language. I like how that sounds. Now let's mix up the letters. Or literally just sit there and sound out words like a weirdo until you have something that sounds like what you want the word to mean, and then just keep a running dictionary. And it's weirdly easy. It doesn't have to be complicated.
I like the keep the running dictionary because if you
Right.
forget what word was, you could get yourself in trouble.
For sure. And the other thing is, if you're going to have a big host of characters, I like to do a spreadsheet. So I'll have characters' name, what they look like, each physical descriptor.
Cheat
And I
sheet.
actually just had to send that to my proofreader, and she's like, oh my God, this is the best thing I've ever seen. I'm like, yeah, I have a lot of characters. I made sure I couldn't forget anything, and I could cross-reference anything I'd ever need to know. So
that I had to do.
Excel spreadsheets can be a lifesaver because you will know your book inside out, but you still will forget your main character's eye color. And you're just going to like.
That's exactly right. Good point. Yep.
So just keep it written down. It makes life easy, but it's also good to sometimes bounce ideas off other people. Don't be afraid to find that person who's just like, I have a thing I want to talk to you about. Can I just ramble for like 4 hours? And then you'll either figure it out yourself or they'll say one tiny little thing. You're like, got it. Cool. Know what to do.
Actually, that's a great idea to have a cheat sheet or a spreadsheet of your characters, particularly minor characters. They do tend to get a little fuzzy on the details: hair color, eye color. What they like, what they dislike. Yep.
Yeah.
Good
Yeah,
point.
I'm
Good point.
legit. When I did my Team Angel series, I literally had 3 pages for 13 books of all of the angels, and it was their name, their birth date, their height, their eye color, their hair color, their whatever their gift was. They all had anything special. When I did my Saints of Time trilogy, whatever their special gift was, all of that's written down, and that's the only thing I keep running at the end of the thing. But brilliant. Well, Haley, thank you so much. You were a true joy to talk to. I appreciate your time.
Thank you guys
That's
for having me.
valuable.
You bet.
Next week, we're going to be talking to Leah. Is it Shreves, Mike?
Yes.
Leah Shreves from Longview Public. She's Longview
Public
Public Library. She's a librarian, so make sure to tune in and we'll get a chance to talk to her. There will be no Book World on the 15th of May, so make sure you're aware of that. And make sure to stop by if you're in the Longview area at the Longview Exhibit Center on May 4th and May 5th. You're going to come by and see Mike and I. That is going to be at 1123 JC Drive in Longview, Texas. You're going to see guests who include Kevin Sorbo, Carrie Means, Paul St. Peter from the Amazing Digital Circus. You have Lizzie Freeman, Amanda Hufford, and then you're going to have animator who includes the animator for the Animaniacs, Greg Peters. Do not miss it. Make sure to be there. It'll be lots of fun. I remember on Saturday, the Magic Making Mischief crew, me and Mombi will be there. Yukita won't be able to make it. She's going to do a cosplay meetup group, but we're going to be there. Make sure to wear your Hogwarts house with pride. I will be there in my Ravenclaw. She will be there in her Slytherin. So make sure to show up. See you guys there. In the meantime, have a great week. Stay safe. I know we're getting some more bad weather in our area on Wednesday. Bye, y'all.
If you're in Nashville in June, come see me at UtopiaCon, June 21st, Nashville, Tennessee.